Yes.
And did you have the opportunity to talk to myself with regards to retaining you for the services of the evaluation of Bionca Ellis?
Yes.
And did you cause a report to be generated based on your findings with regards to the evaluation of Bionca Ellis?
Yes, I did. I authored a report dated July 8, 2025.
Right. And doctor, it is a 37-page report.
That's correct.
Your Honor, may I approach? Dr. Nossinger, handing you what's been previously marked and shown with Defense Counsel, State's Exhibit 230. Do you recognize that document, sir?
Yes. Again, this is my July 8th, 2025 sanity evaluation, 37 pages in length. And I have another copy in front of in my folder here as well.
Okay. And sir, does your name and signature appear at the back?
Yes.
And are all of your findings based to a reasonable degree of medical certainty in forensic psychiatry?
Yes.
All right. So,
I could just ask, is the state moving him to be qualified as an expert under 702?
yes, Your Honor.
And is there any objection?
No.
Very good. I'll note for the record that he is deemed to be an expert and allow him to testify as one under evidence rule 702. So go ahead with your question.
Thank you. So, Dr. Nossinger, when you first became involved, what sources of information were
Well,
you...
I interrupted you, so I don't know if he gave his statement about what his finding was, where you were asking
No, I just said, did he have a finding
of reasonable degree of
medical certainty? And he answered, yes, I believe.
I interrupted just because I wanted to make sure he was an expert.
Yeah.
We didn't do that. So,
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
yes. So I apologize for interrupting. Go right ahead.
All right. So, doctor, you have generated a sanity evaluation.
True.
Correct? What source of information did you examine and review in order for you to render your opinion in this matter?
The sources of information I have listed on the first 4 pages of the report, so I'll just go ahead and...
Well, let me ask. You went off.
I'd like to know the majority of the information that he reviewed.
So you want him to read the 4 pages is all I'm asking.
Yes.
I reviewed the indictments. I interviewed the defendant, Bionca Ellis, for 3 hours on June 12th of 2025. I reviewed records prior to the June 3rd, 24 offense, which included some hotline reports from the Department of Job and Family Services from 2007 and 2008, a Division of Children and Family Services reports from 2007 and 2008. I looked at the defendant's Cleveland School District records. I looked at some Frontier and Allegiant airline records from the spring of 2025. I then looked at some police records prior to the June 2024 offense. So Cleveland Police Department records from June of 2013, and then moving forward to 2024, I looked at Bakersfield, California police records from January 26th of 24. That included police reports, 2 videos from police officer body cams, and some evidence photographs. I looked at Cleveland Police Department records from February 24 of 2024, including police report and then 3 police officer body cam videos. I then looked at some police records from Florida, and I'm not certain how you pronounce this, Osceola, Florida County Sheriff's Department records from March 25th of 24, including police reports and then 2 body cam videos. I then looked at the defendant's medical and psychiatric records prior to the current offenses. So Cleveland Clinic records, which included her psychiatric hospital records from Lutheran Hospital from 2015, multiple Fairview Hospital records from the ER from 2013 up to 2023, other records from the Lutheran ER from 2015 and 2016. I looked at the psychiatric hospital records for Marymount Hospital, where the defendant was hospitalized from September 4th to September 15th of 23. Fairview Hospital medical hospitalization records in October of 23. Then a subsequent psychiatric hospital stay at Marymount Hospital from October 22nd.
Going through the records, letting the jury know what those records show. We'll hit pause, go back in for more testimony next.
Donna Adelson was part of a conspiracy to kill her former son-in-law, Dan Markell.
He's not going to survive.
Oh my God!
Dan saw Donna as dangerous.
She's the matriarch mastermind.
She's just being a parent, not a killer.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rollins. Season finale, Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific. And during the finale, don't miss an exclusive preview for the new season of Interview with a Killer, only on Court TV.
That was captured on video, yes, to make some conclusions.
Okay. And doctor, why is it important to videotape the defendant or the suspect that you are talking to?
Well, I don't videotape every criminal defendant, but in this case, there were substantial questions. There were substantial conflicts in the data between the contemporaneous evidence and Dr. West's report. And I wanted to capture that on videotape, my encounter with the defendant, to get her account of the offense, but also to ask her about some of the things that she had told Dr. West and some of Dr. West's conclusions. And so I wanted to preserve that on videotape because I thought it was especially important data.
Okay. And, sir, if I were to show you a couple of clips from your interview, do you want us to go to a certain part of that, or do you want to start with your report and your findings? What, after the interview, what did you do next, and what did you examine?
Yeah, why don't we go through the report?
Okay, fair enough. So, the statement of non-confidentiality, did you have a conversation with Ms. Ellis about that?
Yes, that's how we opened the interview, just to get her informed consent. In that, I informed her of a number of things. That, first of all, that it was being videotaped and that what she told me was not confidential, that I'd be writing a report, so things she told me could be shared with others, either through my written report or any courtroom testimony, and that although I was a psychiatrist, I would not be her treating psychiatrist, but just doing this one-time interview for the purposes of her insanity defense evaluation. And because of that, then we did not have a doctor-patient relationship.
And did she understand what you were indicating to her and what you were telling her you were going to do?
Yes.
And did she appear to understand, and did she understand?
She appeared to, yes. Yeah.
And did she participate in answering your questions?
Yes.
All right. And what, not, because we have a video, but can you just summarize for us your interview with her and what kinds of questions you were looking at? I believe you started off with social history. Why is social history important?
Well, it's part of any standard psychiatric interview to understand the defendant's social history as well as the other various histories that I gathered.
And did she speak about her family?
Yes.
Spoke about her mother?
Yes.
Spoke about her dad?
Yes.
And indicated to you that her dad had some mental illness?
Yes, that her father had schizoaffective disorder.
All right. And she told you about her marital status and things of that sort?
She was single, never married, yes.
Does she talk about where she lived on June 3rd of 2024?
Yeah, we talked about her travel and then how she had returned to Northeast Ohio, where she had an apartment in Rocky River, but said she was not living in.
All right. And then you inquired about her educational history.
Yes.
And you found out about her background. What did you learn?
That she had attended the Cleveland Public School District, that she was a good student, no major behavioral problems. She left in school in 10th grade, and she told me the reason she left was that she had believed that she had given birth to a large number of children, including that she had given birth to a child at school that had subsequently been taken from her, which I think is just one of her baseline symptoms of her mental illness. But she said that was the reason she left school, was she had bad memories of school because of that so-called memory.
Now, when you say baseline, what do you mean by that?
Well, she's had schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder for a number of years. And so it looks like that she always, to some extent, has some degree of symptoms and then has periodic exacerbations where her symptoms become worse. So I interpreted her telling me that she had something like 15 or 12 children over the years that had all been taken from her as just kind of a chronic delusion that she had.
Okay. All right. Then you talk about occupational history and what did...
Okay, let's pause the doctor's testimony here. Let's see what our legal eagles think. I want to bring in our attorney guests this hour, Nicole DeBoard and Rob Corbett. Good morning to you both. Share with us your thoughts, please, on this witness and his testimony so far. What do we think? Nicole, start us off, please.
He's going through very methodically what one of these examinations looks like, and he is acknowledging the fact that there is indeed serious mental illness present, and he is going to follow that up with information about why, despite serious mental illness, this is still someone who is competent to stand trial and can understand and assist their counsel during the trial procedure. So that is going to be the opposite of what we heard from the defense experts in this case in terms of whether or not she's capable of assisting counsel in such a way that they can actually try her for this crime.
Rob, share with us your thoughts on this witness, please.
First off, thank you for having me. Excuse me, and I would agree. He's doing an excellent job in terms of laying out all of the things in terms of that he used to come to his ultimate conclusion. The not guilty by reason of insanity are always an uphill battle. I believe less than 1% of all felony cases use this type of defense. And out of that 1%, it's only successful about a quarter of the time. And then plus you're dealing with the state of Ohio, which has a more restrictive view of that defense as opposed to some other states. So, but he's doing an excellent job for the prosecution in terms of laying out, in terms of despite any mental history she may have had, she is still going to be competent. She's been found competent in terms of to assist in her defense, and that this is not a viable defense that the jury should find or the trier of fact should find to find her not guilty.
Rob and Nicole, stand by kindly, please. Much more to come with this witness as we really get into the meat and potatoes of why he's here and what he's refuting. It was put forth by the defense team. Thanks for watching Court TV Live. We are your front row seat to justice.
and she stabbed him in the side of his face. And then she stabbed me.
Take a defendant and ask a question.
Oh, that was Margot Wood when she was on the stand talking about the day that she and her little son Julian were stabbed. This happened in a parking lot of a busy grocery store in broad daylight in Cleveland, Ohio. And the issue isn't whether this defendant did the stabbing. She did, and her team acknowledges that she did. The issue is whether she was sane at the time of the incident. Sanity is a backward-looking inquiry that goes to her state of mind at the time of the crime. She could be sane today, but the issue is whether she was sane on June the 3rd of 2024. And on the stand right now, we've got a rebuttal witness called by the state of Ohio. His name is Dr. Stephen Knopfsinger. We paused his testimony. Let's go back in.
You talk about occupational history, and what is that about?
That she had worked in various fast food restaurants. She also had earned a child care certification and had a child care business for a while, watching her aunt's 2 children. And she had also worked as a home health aide. That she had last worked in about 2019, and she had received SSI since about 2017.
Okay. And then you talk to her about her medical history.
Yes?
And does she talk to you about that?
Yes, she said she had hypertension, she had a heart condition called tachycardia, which is just basically a rapid heartbeat. She had adult onset diabetes, sleep apnea, gallstones, uterine fibroids. She had had some surgeries in the past for tonsillectomy and appendectomy, low back injury, and then later she told me she had POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, so variations in blood pressure and heart rate.
Okay. All right. Did she ever have any type of head trauma or loss of consciousness?
She said no.
All right. Current medications?
When I saw her in June of 25, she was taking Clozaril, which is an antipsychotic medication, and she was also taking medication for blood pressure and for diabetes, and then something called Cogentin, which is it's a medication for side effects of the psychiatric medication.
And you talked to her about some legal history and some travel history, doctor?
Yes.
All right, and why do you talk to her about some legal history?
The question is, why do I?
Yes.
That's just a part of a standard psychiatric evaluation to understand if a person has had prior arrests or not.
Okay. And travel history?
Yes.
All right. You talked to her about that and what she had been doing prior to June 3rd of 2024, correct?
Yes.
All right. And the places she went and the things that she did, correct?
Yes.
All right. Then you talk about abuse history.
Yes.
And what does she tell you about that?
That she believed that she had been abused emotionally as a child when she witnessed her mother and father fighting, which was stressful for her and caused her to be tearful. But she never had been physically abused as a child. She said in 2022 she was assaulted by a woman at Walmart, which she believed was physical abuse. I asked her about sexual abuse, and she said that she believed she had been raped by a family friend, but was uncertain if this was a real memory or simply a symptom of her mental illness.
Okay. And would that be a symptom of her mental illness?
Potentially, yes.
Okay, fair enough. Family psychiatric history important?
Yeah, again, she said her father had been diagnosed with something called schizoaffective disorder, which is a variant between schizophrenia and a mood disorder. Her father had experienced hearing voices telling him to kill himself, and had had psychiatric hospitalizations to treat his illness. And there was a question about whether her paternal grandfather also had mental illness. because she said he tended to prognosticate and to make other somewhat strange statements.
Okay. All right. And substance abuse history, is that important?
Sure, that's part of any standard psychiatric evaluation. I took her substance abuse history, and it looked like, although she had used some substances in the past, nothing really close in time to the offense, so it wasn't really relevant.
All right. And then the psychiatric history then. And
Yes.
do you go through that with her?
Yes.
All right. And does she talk to you about the various situations that she found herself in, the various hospitalizations that she was in, inpatient and outpatient, talk to you about Murtis Taylor and going to Murtis Taylor?
Yes.
Okay. And did you verify some of that information or the documentation that was provided to you?
I did. Yes, she described to me her various symptoms, which included hallucinations and delusions and depression. She described hospitalizations beginning in 2015 for mental illness and taking medications and outpatient treatment, and that appeared to be corroborated by the medical records, which I reviewed.
All right. And then there's a mental status examination on 6/12.
Pausing the testimony right here. Don't go anywhere. More unaired footage from the courtroom in Ohio in the toddler stabbed murder case is next.
The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder.
Convicted for the murder of her former son-in-law. How long will the matriarch mastermind spend in prison?
Was it worth it?
The sentencing of Donna Adelson, today at 3 on Court TV.
Donna Adelson wasn't a regular mother.
She's the matriarch mastermind. She's just being a parent, not a killer.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rollins. Season finale, Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific.
Only on Court TV.
I want to take you back into the courtroom now in Florida. Live look at the hearing for defendant Mark Sievers. You may remember this trial happened back in Florida in 2019 when he hired 2 hitmen to murder his wife, Teresa. Big case. He was convicted, sentenced to death, and he's got a big evidentiary hearing as he is still trying to proclaim his innocence and fight the penalty that was doled out to him. There's a look at Mark Sievers now. Looks a bit different than he did years ago when he was arrested for those crimes. And just getting his handcuffs taken off for this hearing. We're keeping an eye on it for you, filming it. We're going to be showing it to you later on today here on Court TV Live. Right now, though, we're in the trial in Ohio, showing you unaired footage from the case against defendant Bionca Ellis. She stabbed a little toddler named Julian Wood. The question is, was she sane when she did the stabbing? Let's go back in and hear more from the state's rebuttal witness.
And then there's a mental status examination on 6/12/25. Can you tell me about that, sir?
Sure. It's not really relevant to the sanity evaluation since it's not, it's done a year after the offense, but it's just a way of just describing her mental functioning whenever I interviewed her.
Okay. And just summarizing that, what were your observations of her on 6/12/25?
Well, she was somewhat withdrawn, but she was polite and pleasant. She had good hygiene. Her level of physical activity was a bit reduced. She spoke at a normal rate and pressure at speech, but at a low volume. So I frequently had to either ask her to repeat herself or to repeat her statement back to her. She said she was mildly depressed. She had an emotional blunting, which is characteristic of people with schizophrenia.
What does that mean, emotional blunting?
Just that she didn't display kind of a normal range of emotions, from smiling to sadness when appropriate, but just more flat.
And is that typical of folks that have schizophrenia?
Yes.
All right.
She did report to me things that I believe were likely to be delusional, such as giving birth to multiple people in the past, or multiple babies in the past, but did not have other delusions like paranoia or thinking someone could read her mind. Told me that when I saw her in June 12/25, her voice talking to her approximately once daily, saying things to her such as, "I'm your child," or "Don't give up." Sometimes the voices didn't make sense. And she occasionally saw the vision of a lion. And the rest of the mental status is me just assessing her for any kind of cognitive deficits like problems with memory or concentration, which she did fine on.
Okay. All right. And so do you also have a conversation about Murtis Taylor?
Well, just that she told me she had been there for outpatient treatment, yes.
All right. So, let's see here. So that's our psychiatric history. We've gone through the mental status. Then you look at police reports prior to 6/3/24. So you look at all the reports that are provided to you.
Yes.
And is there anything of note that you want to share with us before we get to your conclusions at the end?
Sure. So keep in mind, again, these are police reports from the months prior to the offense and in different locations. So we have the January 26, 24 Bakersfield, California police reports. And again, I also watched the body cam videos. So this took place at the Kern Medical Center in Bakersfield, California, where she was arrested. She had refused to leave the medical center property. Nurses told told officers that Miss Ellis had.
Can I just jump in, Doctor?
Yes.
So I think the question was, is there anything in the police records that, and we could have it stated, I think you asked him, is there anything that stands out to him?
Yes.
Right. And so I don't know if everything as you're reading it, or is there something specific about the police reports that stand out to you with respect to your evaluation? Otherwise, I'm not stopping him from reading all of them, but I just wondered, was that the right question that I heard? And then maybe it does, maybe all of it does. I don't know.
Well, I was getting to the fact that she had been aggressive, that she had behavioral problems, that she had assaulted hospital staff and refused to leave the property. And in fact, when she was asked to leave the property, she demanded that the police be called. So she was combative, punched the 2 security guards, and she then told officers that they needed to take her to jail because she had just assaulted hospital staff. So I think it's pretty striking behavior that, in fact, she even told officers that she wanted to stay in police custody for a minimum of 2 weeks, and even asked, what do I need to do to stay in jail? And she asked officers how much time she could get for resisting arrest. I think also noteworthy was her bizarre dress. She was wearing pink boots, a skirt, a sweater, and wig. So what was noteworthy to me was that, number one, she's physically violent. Number two, she's demanding that the police be called. And number three, she's seeking to stay in jail, which I think is very unusual.
Well, is it unusual?
Okay, so there's quite a history, as you can see, that this doctor's gone through with Bionca Ellis. Let's just take a step back for a moment and look at everything we've already seen in the facts presented from the witnesses, the defense witnesses called saying she was insane at the time, and now this rebuttal, which we're still to hear more of. What do we think is going to be the end result? What might these jurors be thinking about this woman? Let's bring in our attorney guests and ask them. With me this morning, Rob Corbett and Nicole DeBoard. Rob, let me begin with you here, please. What do you think this jury's thinking?
I think ultimately the jury is going to lead or get to the conclusion that, yes, she does have a history of mental illness. Yes, she was presenting or exhibiting odd behavior. And yes, she had to have medication or what have you in order to be deemed competent to even go forward with trial. But I think based in terms of, and we're not quite there yet from this expert, but the expert is ultimately going to get to the point that despite having all of these things present, that she was still able to understand what she did was wrong. And that's the ultimate question in terms of what they have to consider when you're looking at whether a person can be found not guilty by reason of insanity.
Sure is. Rob, thanks. Nicole, tell us what you think the jurors may be thinking, please.
Well, first of all, Rob is 100% correct. And that is the big question, whether or not she knew the difference between right and wrong at the time, because they have to determine whether or not she was sane. This is just such a horrific case. There are jurors who are certainly thinking that they need to punish this person for this terrible, terrible crime. And that's just going to be very hard for some jurors to look past toward the question of whether or not she was sane at the time that it was committed. And so really they are going to be struggling with exactly the question that Rob pointed out, which is, did she know the difference between right and wrong at the time that she committed this horrific crime? Because if they find her to have been insane, then there is mental health treatment ahead, but a not guilty verdict as well.
Yes, Nicole, thank you for that. She won't be walking free. She'll go to a state hospital and be treated until she becomes well enough to be out in society. What a difficult case it is. Thank you both kindly for your analysis today. Rob Corbett, Nicole DeBoard, we appreciate you both. And friends at home, we appreciate you. There's more testimony ahead from that forensic psychiatrist. And as we head to break, we want to remember the victim, little Julian Wood. This little guy was 3 years old. He loved dinosaurs. He also loved the color green. He was taken from this earth far too soon, and he is deeply missed. Oh, so what does that mean? Does that mean she knew what she was doing? Or does that mean she was out of her mind? Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. We're in Cleveland, Ohio for the case of the stabbing of 3-year-old Julian Wood and his mother, Margot. She survived, but sadly, Julian did not. And here, this is charged as a first-degree murder case. The defendant is Bionca Ellis. And her team isn't denying that she did the stabbings. She did. They fully acknowledge that. What they're refuting is her legal responsibility. They're claiming that she was insane at the time. The prosecution disagrees. They believe she knew right from wrong, and they've called a rebuttal witness to support that contention. Let's go back in now and hear more from Dr. Stephen Knopfsinger.
And so, Doctor, if we could, let's turn to page 33 of page 37 of your report. With regards to legal sanity, did you formulate an opinion in this matter, sir?
I did.
And what is your opinion, and what is it based on?
Well, I have opinions on both arms of the legal insanity test.
Okay, so let's start with the first part of the arm.
Yeah. It's my opinion with the reasonable medical certainty that the defendant had the severe mental disease of schizophrenia at the time of the 6/3/24 offense.
And what do you base that on, sir?
Several reasons. First of all, we have the defendant's report to me. She reported a history of schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder that she had had for many years before the offenses. And the symptoms she reported, including various hallucinations and delusions, fit with the diagnosis of schizophrenia. She also reported that she had been psychiatrically hospitalized and received treatment with antipsychotic and other medications, all kind of consistent with schizophrenia. So that was one part of the reason.
Now, doctor, isn't that just self-reporting?
That's self-reporting, which we don't rely on, but we take it as one piece of data, and then we look for the presence or absence of corroboration, which in this case there was.
Okay, and that's looking at all the records, correct?
The medical records and the statement from her mother, who corroborated that the defendant had schizophrenia. And then, of course, what we know about it, that once it's diagnosed, it tends to be a lifelong illness.
So there is no question that Bionca Ellis has schizophrenia. Can we agree on that?
We agree.
Okay, all right. So your next point then, sir, with regards to your opinion.
It's my opinion with reasonable medical certainty, however, that the defendant did not have a severe mental disease or defect at the time of the June 3rd, 2024 offense that caused her to not know the wrongfulness of the offenses. So despite having schizophrenia, it did not cause her to not know the wrongfulness of the offenses.
All right, can you explain that now to us, how you have formulated that opinion, sir?
Well, there are several reasons for it, and let me break this down here. First of all, the defendant had a rational motive for the offenses that was unrelated to her severe mental disease of schizophrenia. And there's multiple pieces of evidence that would support that rational motive.
All right, so let's talk about them. What did she tell you?
Well, she told me, when I interviewed her on June 12th of this year, that her rage caused the stabbings. Rage took control of her to make her do the, quote, wrong thing. She, quote, blanked out, which she further explained, meaning that she experienced rage and anger. She, quote, blanked out and her rage took over. She felt rage and blanked out because before the offense, she was hot, dehydrated, had slept outside the previous night, had not eaten that day, and was worried about not having to pay any money and being unable to pay her rent.
Now, doctor, before we go on to B, all those things, some of those are self-report. Don't you need corroboration for that?
There is some corroboration, but I think we can also have higher confidence in motives that people self-report that are not helpful to their case, whereas if they promote a self-serving motive, then we kind of have a reason to question that and look for more corroboration.
Okay. 1B.
We look at the victim and witness accounts of the offense, which whenever I reviewed them indicated that she appeared angry close in time to the offense. So we have witness statements, first of all from Diane Spahar, the Volunteers of America store employee, told officers that Miss Ellis looked angry and distraught as she walked through the store with the knives in her hand. And then secondly, Margot Wood told officers that the defendant had an evil look on her face during the offenses, which would be consistent with anger and rage.
Well, is it consistent with schizophrenia, sir?
It's independent of schizophrenia.
How so?
It's not a symptom of schizophrenia. Anger and rage, or anger control problems and rage, are not symptoms of schizophrenia.
All right. Then you go on to C and D.
Well, thirdly, when you review the video footage from Giant Eagle and Things Outlet, to me it looks evident that the defendant does appear to be unhappy and walked in an angry, purposeful fashion, and certainly not a disorganized fashion. And then fourthly, if you look at simply the timing and sequence of events, what happened in the minutes, the 20 or so minutes before the offense, it all kinds of lines up why she would be upset. So we know that she was in the North Olmsted Police Station lobby from 1440 to 1444 hours, seeking to retrieve items she believed had been wrongly taken from her when she had been recently in jail, including cash and a gift card that she valued at $700 that she said she had to have to pay her rent and purchase food and water with. And we know that she was turned away in the lobby because the police officer that handles those complaints was not there that day. And they told her, we don't know anything about your missing items. So she was unsuccessful in her effort to retrieve her missing items from the police station. We then have directly after that, it's all on video, she goes through the parking lot, gets out of her wheelchair, gets rid of her luggage, and goes over to Volunteers of America, where she's seen walking through the store, selecting the 2 knives from the Volunteers of America. We have her then, only a few minutes later, entering the Giant Eagle store with 1 knife in hand, and then locating the victims in the Giant Eagle outside by the cash registers there, doing a 180 and turning and walking behind them, following them out, and then committing the offenses at 1500 hours. So the close relationship in time to the defendant's unsuccessful efforts to retrieve her missing $700 worth of items, the close relationship with that, with getting the knives and then committing the offenses, coupled with her acknowledged rage and anger, to me indicates a causal relationship between her rage and anger and the offenses. In fact, she's still angry about it the next morning when she's interviewed by Detective Jones. She continued to focus on her perception that she had been victimized, that she was missing 700 items, and demanding an investigation and appearing to me to be angry.
Appearing to you to be angry, sir, that's subjective, correct?
It's an observation, but it's, I guess it's open to interpretation, sure.
And was she disorganized in that interview with Detective Jones?
I don't believe so.
And what would you be looking at if she was disorganized in her thought process?
Kind of a word salad, just sentences not making sense, maybe some disorganization in her behavior as well.
But she's focused in that interview.
She's focused on getting back what she believes is her missing items, and then when she's asked about the offense, she simply asks for a lawyer, which appears to be organized.
Okay. And
oh, so this was big. This right here, what we just saw, was the big moment of this doctor's testimony, saying that it was Bionca Ellis's rage that caused the stabbings, not schizophrenia. He's saying that rage isn't something that's part of schizophrenia. He's making it very clear that this is separate and apart with what she's been diagnosed with. In her words, she's saying that's what occurred there in his interview with her. All right, so what's the jury going to think of this? Let's bring in Sonny Slaughter and Marlo Greer. Good morning to you both. Sonny, let me begin with you. What'd you think of this testimony from the doctor?
Good morning, ladies, and good morning, Courties. I think this is excellent. And it also goes into what I said last week, that she became angry when she was at the police department and could not get her property back. That is when this whole thing started for her, that she wasn't angry during the stabbing, that she knew what she was doing. And I'm so glad that this doctor is really clear that rage is not a part of schizophrenia, which is the disease and diagnosis, and that these two are not the same, which means we need to stop saying things about people being crazy and it having to do with disease and diagnosis, which then people always equate to violence. And people that have disease and diagnosis are not always violent, and we need not say that about individuals all the time, just kind of happenstance.
Right. Marlo, want to get your thoughts, please. What do you think the jury may be thinking hearing this bit of testimony from the doctor?
My thoughts are that they need to have a reason why. And I don't know that just being upset over missing items is going to give them that. I think they have to have some other explanation. And the explanation is the schizophrenia. So then the question really becomes, did she know what she was doing at the time? I don't think they're going to discount the schizophrenia just because it does answer the why question, which we all so much need as human beings. But the question then becomes, did she know right from wrong? And I think that this doctor's testimony, regardless of any diagnosis, she knew right from wrong when she committed this act. She said there was a disconnect in her brain. She was struggling with her brain. So I think that that's going to be the focus, is the right from wrong at the time, not the schizophrenia generally, because that does give us a why, even if it's not exactly right, but it answers that fundamental question of, why did a child have to die?
Yeah, it's just unspeakable, Marlo. It really is. And we're going to get into some of Bionca Ellis's own words in just a moment here. Apparently, this doctor's video evaluation with her is going to be played for the jury. So we're going to get to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. He just testified that she told him she blanked out, her rage took over, she had no place to go, she was hot. And so he's saying rage, anger, not symptoms of schizophrenia, saying that she did know right from wrong at the time. Now, we know this is not what the defense team says, so this is what it's coming down to. Which expert is more effective for this jury? What is this jury going to believe in terms of the facts and this expert testimony? So we'll hit the pause button here. We'll hit a break. When we come back in, we're going to watch that video played for the jury, and you're going to see and hear from Bionca Ellis. Be right back.
The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder.
Convicted for the murder of her former son-in-law. How long will the matriarch mastermind spend in prison?
Was it worth it?
The sentencing of Donna Adelson, today at 3 on Court TV.
Donna Adelson wasn't a regular mother.
She's the matriarch mastermind. She's just being a parent, not a killer.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rollins. Season finale, Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific.
Only on Court TV.
To Court TV Live, I'm Julie Grant. Let me show you the trials we're tracking for you right now. In Wisconsin, we've got the caught in the crossfire murder trial. This is for defendant Parise Larry. This guy's accused of killing Tatiana Zek outside of her home. In Florida, we've got defendant convicted killer Mark Severs back in court. This guy's fighting to have his conviction and his death sentence overturned. You might remember him from his trial. This case was one of the first ones we aired after we relaunched in 2019. He was convicted of hiring 2 hitmen to murder his wife, Teresa. And also happening in Florida, we've got the sentencing for Mama Donna Adelson getting underway at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. You can count on Court TV to be there for it all. Right now, we want to take you back to Ohio for the homicide case for the death of 3-year-old Julian Wood. Darling little child stabbed to death in a grocery store parking lot. He was stabbed by a woman named Bionca Ellis, and the question is, was she sane at the time that she stabbed him? We're hearing some unaired footage from the state's rebuttal witness. This is Dr. Stephen Knopfsinger. And when we go back in, you're about to see the videotape of the evaluation he did on Bionca Ellis. Remember, his opinion is she knew right from wrong. He's saying she was enraged at the time of the stabbing. She was mad about her day. She had slept outside the night before. She was hot. We know that she came from the police station upset. He's saying, yes, she did suffer from schizophrenia, but that rage wasn't a symptom of it. Let's go back in.
And number 4?
4 is, this is the 4th reason why she didn't have the severe mental disease at the time of the offense, which caused her to not know the wrongfulness. There was no psychotic motive which caused her to believe that the offenses were right. And there's different types of motives. There's rational motives, there's psychotic motives, but the defendant still knew that they had done something wrong. And then there's psychotic motives which cause someone to think that they're doing the right thing. And only the latter one constitutes insanity. So in this case, there was no psychotic motive which caused her to believe that the offenses were right. Now, she did report to me when I interviewed her on June 12th of this year a number of symptoms. But even if you accept those symptoms at face value as accurate, which, part of them were not corroborated by the contemporaneous evidence, but even if you take them at face value as accurate, none of them would indicate she had a psychotic motive which caused her to believe that the offenses were right. So she reported to me anxiety at the time of the offense, that she was thinking of cutting her arms, this loss of control of her body, visions of herself dying in planets and a black moon, and Satan killing her, visions about, hearing voices telling her to kill herself, feeling like she was overthrown by a monster that was stronger than me, the single voice of Satan telling her to kill herself, the strong presence from the spirits, especially Satan, that stopped her from dropping the second knife. But again, even if you accept that she experienced these symptoms, which again, they're not corroborated, but even if you accept them, had she experienced them, they would not have caused her to believe that committing the murders and the other offenses was the right thing to do. So, for example, if she heard voices telling her to kill herself, that would not cause her to believe that it was right to kill the victim. There's simply no connection there. Or feeling that Satan was present, telling her to kill herself, or that she had a loss of control of her body, that would not cause her to believe that it was right to commit the offenses.
But what if she was in a psychosis or disorganization? Her thoughts were all over the place because of her mental illness.
Well, keep in mind the legal test for insanity is not psychosis. It's not disorganization. It's very specific. Did she have symptoms of a severe mental disease or defect at the time of the offense that caused her to not know the wrongfulness of the offense? So not all psychotic symptoms would meet that test, and certainly thought disorganization would not.
Okay. And you have, I believe, Did you hit B and C of number 4, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So number 5 and number 6.
Well, number 5 is I asked her on June 12th, and this is on the video, did you know at the time of the offense that it was against the law to stab other people? And she clearly said yes. She knew that it was illegal.
Okay. And so, Doctor, before we get to a few other opinions, we're going to play just a portion of the video. We're going to start, this is State's Exhibit 204. It is 3 hours in length. We are going to start, hold on a minute, at 2:23:45.
Do you want me to introduce it first or just play it?
Well, I'm going to ask you as soon as Julie gets it ready. All right, Doctor, are you in this video?
Right, there's a small cutout there in the bottom left, so I'm there in the extreme bottom left in the white shirt.
And where was this interview conducted, sir?
In this building at the Sheriff's Department.
And who was present for this interview?
Just me and Miss Ellis.
Okay. And is that customary to meet with the suspect by yourself?
Yes.
All right. And so we're going to play at 2:23:45, and we're going to play to 2:57:30.
You're going to play it continuously?
Yes.
2:23 to 2:57.
Yes, that was the agreement that was reached.
24 minutes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So, Doctor, when you're at this particular point, what point in the interview are you at here?
Right, so we've been talking for 2 hours and 24 minutes. So the first hour and a half, we had gone through the informed consent and all the background histories. And right about 1 hour 50, we started talking about the offense, and that was the rest of the interview. So we had a total about 1 hour and 10. So at this point, we're about half an hour to 40 minutes into it. And so we've already gone over much of the offense already. And I'm going back and asking some clarifying questions. And she's, up to this, she's told me that she blanked out, that something took over control of her body. And so later on, we kind of talk about that in some more detail. But
so again, you're going to play continuously, no discussions, right?
Correct. That was the agreement by the parties.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, go ahead. Thanks.
So what happened, by accident, So I'm just trying to understand.
You want to pause it for a moment? So, Ms. Mateo, yeah, turn mine up. Let's see if it does it go any hot louder. I can't. Right there. So I put it. Were some of you having problems hearing it? Yeah. So this is the maximum. So let's go from here.
So what happened? By accident, So I'm just trying to understand. Did you know there was laws against stabbing people at that point? Yeah. And everyone knows that. You kiss with that. So you knew it was illegal. Did you have any thoughts that they were going to attack you? Or did you, again, my question is, did you have any thoughts that they were going to kill you?
Okay, so this is the videotape of the interview that testifying expert witness did with Bionca Ellis, and we acknowledge it's very hard to hear. You could hear them in the courtroom having a hard time turning up the volume for the jury. So what we're going to do is fast forward a little bit to a portion where we can hear things a bit better and kind of summarize what we're learning from this interview for you. Don't go away. This is Court TV Live. We are your front row seat to justice.
Towards a mother and her child.
This is a battle of the experts we're seeing in Cleveland, Ohio, in the case against defendant Bionca Ellis. Experts on both sides agree that this woman was suffering from schizophrenia at the time. But where they disagree is the effects of that mental disease. Because Bionca Ellis's own words were that she was feeling rage. Her rage took over at the time of the stabbings. And this doctor on the stand is saying rage isn't a symptom of schizophrenia, that it indicates that she did know what she did was wrong. So let's go back in now. We've kind of fast forwarded that tape to the point where we can hear it a little bit better. Let's go back in.
Was the stabbing like a way to express your rage? Were you frustrated? I'm still left trying to kind of make sense of this. Is there anything else you can do to explain this? Insanity, what do you think about that? Is that something that you see as a positive or a negative outcome? You know, if you're convicted of this kind of sentence,
That's it. All right, Dr. Knopfsinger.
Can we take a minute? If you want to stand up and stretch your legs, anybody? Readjust. Get you back into it here, please. Sure.
Now, Dr. Knopfler, suffice it to say that we just saw, give or take, 20 minutes of that interview. But in fact, that's a 3-hour-long interview that you conduct with Miss Ellis. Is that fair?
Correct. And again, the last hour and a quarter was over the offense, and so this is just the final part of discussing the offense.
Okay. And sir, with regards to, I believe you mentioned hindsight, and then Dr. West actually mentioned hindsight bias. What does that mean?
Hindsight bias is someone knows the outcome of an event and then form opinions about people's conduct that took place before the event.
Okay.
And it's something we're trying to avoid because you have to place yourself in a person's shoes, what they knew at the time, not having knowledge of the bad outcome, the bad event later.
Okay. And with regards to rational or irrational connections, with regards to your interview with Miss Ellis on June 12th of 2025, was she able to relate to you where she was in her mindset with regards to the incident?
She was ultimately, yes. We had a good hour of her basically not wanting to talk about it, saying, I blanked out, I lost control. And to me, that just doesn't explain the situation. And so I persisted through the course of that hour and pushed back and said, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. This is not a symptom of schizophrenia to blank out or to lose control. And we finally have there at the conclusion then her, I think, finally saying what really happened, which was that her rage took over. She was angry about about her situation, and that was the motive for the offense.
And that's corroborated with the other information that you have in this case.
It's heavily corroborated by, first of all the absence of objective signs of mental illness during the offense, all the video, how she interacted with the police, the witness statements, and the fact, again, that she does look to appear to be angry, and by the offense itself, three stabbings.
3 stab wounds.
Yeah, this is really, really bad what happened to little Julian Wood. What are you convinced of at this point in time after hearing from both sides? So they're agreeing on the diagnosis, but disagreeing on whether she suffered from that disease or defect in her mind that would cause her to not know the difference between what's right and what's wrong. Share with us your thoughts on social media. I've seen some of them coming in this morning. I appreciate all the insights from all of you members of our Cordy family. Let's bring in Sonny Slaughter and attorney Marlo Greer. Great to have you both on the show this morning. Sonny, start us off, please. Your thoughts at this point as we're getting more information from Bionca Ellis.
You know, once again, I want to say how horrific this is for little Julian and his family. They will never be the same. He is gone forever, and I really hate this. But unfortunately, this is a woman that does have a disease and diagnosis. I'm sure she has had this for a very long time. And what I believe is that she knew right from wrong at the time of the incident. I believe that she was angry. I think that the jury is going to see that. And they're going to understand that, even though it's complicated. And we all know someone with a history of disease and diagnosis around mental health. We all know someone, even if they're in our families, or we know someone that knows someone. So this is not foreign to us, but this crime is horrific and heinous.
Right. It sure is, Sonny. I've seen several Cordys agreeing with your analysis on this one, sharing their comments. And we really have to dive deep into this one, don't we? Marlo, when we think about the inquiries here, you know, it's not as simple as just she was unwell. Well, yeah, I think anybody could take a look at her and see her swinging the knife and the giant eagle and know she was unwell. But the question, as we were discussing earlier, really has to unpack so many layers of her mental health and what she believed and perceived at the time, doesn't it?
It does. And was she unwell at the time? And is that when she actually committed the stabbing? Is it when she walked up? You asked everybody's thoughts, what's going on in your mind, and I just kind of want to weigh in on that, which is my thought is this doctor is such a seasoned expert witness. I don't know that the jury will see this, but the one thing that stood out to me was the fact that when the video came on, he said, "Oh, do you want me to introduce it first or just play it?" And as lawyers, we know that what we have to do is something that's super boring called lay a foundation. He already knew that. And the other thing that I'm struck by is that he's saying a couple things that a quick Google search would reveal aren't accurate. And while the jury is not supposed to Google, the question is, what is the defense going to come back and say? He indicated rage is not a symptom of schizophrenia. Aggression is a symptom of schizophrenia. And that's, again, a quick Google search. The blanking out, which is also a symptom of schizophrenia, but he said that it wasn't. And so is he going to go too far and therefore give the defense something to pick at? And the other thing that struck me, if I may, is that one part of her brain is saying this is wrong, and the other part is saying, do this. What do you do with that as a juror?
These jurors are going to have a lot to think about here. This is tricky. I see why this went to trial. I really do. I know that Bionca Ellis has excellent counsel. I know that. Her counsel is very, very, very seasoned. They've done a great job for her. So I got to tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if this jury goes either way. There's more from the doctor on the stand called by the state of Ohio. So we're going to watch that. Marlo and Sunny, thank you so much. We'll be right back with more Court TV Live. And here's a look at the victims as we head to break. That is Margot Wood with her 3-year-old son, Julian. He is certainly not forgotten as we progress through this trial. He would be 4 years old if he were alive today.
I'm going to ask you a lot of intensely personal questions. How do you explain it? The worst crime anyone can imagine. Do you feel like you took the fall for this murder? Tell me in your own words, what happened? Let's get started.
Interview with a Killer. New season premieres Saturday, October 25th. Only on Court TV.
For a homicide case over the death of a little 3-year-old child named Julian Wood. Question is Is the defendant someone who didn't know right from wrong at the time she stabbed little Julian? We got the state's expert witness on the stand on rebuttal. Let's go back in.
3 stab wounds.
Three actions. Three actions would, to me, be consistent with rage.
And doctor, therefore, based on a reasonable medical certainty, did you come to your final opinion in this case, sir?
I did.
And what was that opinion?
Well, for all the reasons we've gone over, it's my opinion that at the time of the act, Bionca Ellis had a severe mental disease of schizophrenia, but it did not cause her to not know the wrongfulness of the offenses.
And sir, just briefly, you know that Dr. West authored a report.
Yes.
Did you review that report prior to preparing your report?
Yes.
And what were your observations with regards to her report?
I have some concerns both about her methodology in doing the assessment and some concerns about her opinions.
All right, so let's talk briefly about the methodology.
Well, first of all, we have only a didn't number the pages, but I think I counted them, 16-page report.
Correct.
So I think that's a very sparse treatment of a very complex situation involving very serious offenses. I think it did not get the analysis, the full analysis that it deserved. Secondly is that although she lists in her sources of information all the video evidence, she really gives it no consideration in her report. And I would argue that is the most important evidence, the contemporaneous evidence. We have on page 10 and 11 of her report and the first quarter of page 12, her treatment of what she calls the collateral account of the offenses, which is her summary of the police records. So the police records and the video in this case were voluminous, and yet she attempts to summarize it down into 2 pages. She doesn't even say that she didn't do her own analysis of the video. She simply describes the police officer's description of the video, not Dr. West's own interpretation of the video. But even more importantly, in her opinions, she never incorporates all the contemporaneous data into her opinions. She relies heavily on what Ms. Ellis told her. Her self-report made, I believe, 8 months later, that is largely uncorroborated by the contemporaneous evidence. And then finally, there's just holes in her reasoning. She makes an opinion and then attempts to lay out some evidence, but the evidence, in fact, does not support the opinion she's trying to make.
And is it fair to say, doctor, that in that report, a lot of the evidence that she relies on is the self-reporting of Bionca Ellis?
Exactly. Point 1, she makes 4 subpoints, A, B, C, and D. Every one is Miss Ellis stated, Miss Ellis stated, Miss Ellis said that, Miss Ellis reported. And that's a fundamental error in doing sanity evaluations, is you don't rely solely on what the defendant says. You instead look for corroboration in the contemporaneous data. But then even the points, even if you accept it, at face value is accurate, it still doesn't indicate that the defendant didn't know the wrongfulness of the offense. So 1A is Miss Ellis stated that she was experiencing auditory hallucinations, noting someone's got to die, which made her feel very afraid. Even if she did that, How does that get her to believe that the offenses are right? Secondly, Miss Ellis stated my brain just snapped. I went blank. I had no control.
All right, and so we're going to see the cross-examination of this doctor tomorrow morning when court resumes. They have the day off today for the holiday. In the meantime, here on Court TV, we're taking you to Florida for a brand new case. This is an evidentiary hearing for a defendant who's not brand new, Mark Sievers. Be right back.
Sievers,